and thank you very much. I must say it must be exhausting being on the left. A constant state of outrage. What the Deputy Barry left out, of course, is that Dáil motions are meaningless. You might as well go out on the plinth and give a press release or press conference. But I would like to thank the Count Corla, or the last Count Corla, for the opportunity to debate this particular issue. Throughout history, there have been many times when the world has come close to ruin, and on this continent we've seen the horrors of war tear the fabric of society and engulf the globe in death and destruction. The threat of nuclear annihilation, for instance, dominated geopolitics for decades. Economic crises plunged nations into depression. War, nuclear weapons and economic crises are a product of human endeavour and can be stopped or prevented through the goodwill of everyone on this planet. Such events underpin the creation of the United Nations and the development of the European Union, of which Ireland proudly participates. But climate change is different. We risk letting the impacts of climate change through our desire for growth and expansion slip beyond our control. The world has known of the impacts of our actions on climate for decades now, yet we are the first generation to begin acting on this knowledge at a national level. The ambitious goals and targets set out in the country and in the international community are noble and they are attainable, but we must act now. We cannot afford to lose any more time. The cost to the international community missing these goals will be catastrophic. Young people in Ireland coming home from school about now will witness climate disasters in the decades ahead. That until now belonged in the realm of fiction. We owe it to them and all those who come after to deliver them a legacy of responsibility, of action and of achievement. I believe that this government is committed to these ideals, and I believe that the Climate Action and Low Carbon Development Act is a groundbreaking piece of legislation that exemplifies Ireland's commitment to providing a future for all peoples. I spent a great deal of time working on it myself with the Climate Action Committee, and I'm very proud of the product report that came from the committee, which informed the Department and indeed Government of our ambitions for that particular piece of legislation. Our commitments to retrofit 500,000 homes by 2030 will have significant benefits from creating jobs, ending fuel poverty in Ireland, and most importantly, it will dramatically cut the emissions produced in Irish homes every year. The installation of heat pumps and smart metering across the state will also contribute to this endeavour and create a new era of home energy in Ireland. We have ambitious goals that will revolutionise the production of energy in Ireland and of electricity. It is the ambition of this government to reach 70% renewable electricity by 2030, and we are making real progress on this front. In 2010, just 15% of our electricity came from renewable sources. By 2019, that figure has risen to 36%, and preliminary reports show that in 2020, despite COVID-19, we managed to attain 38%. We must do everything in our power to foster growth of renewable energy in Ireland, investing in wind and solar, wave and tidal. Cutting the burdensome requirements companies are required to go through to develop this sector. The passage of new legislation and policy, for instance, in this area is essential. I believe that government should remain cognizant of the need to ensure that we have the labour force to carry out these vital projects and indeed the infrastructure, without which we will struggle to align our ambition with our ability. I believe that we must also clarify our own policies, particularly in the context of peat production. Quite rightly, there has been confusion over recent reports of imports of peat to Ireland, countering a long-held tradition of peat production in Ireland. While not all bogland will be retrievable, many on the islands are. Importing a tiny national requirement for the horticultural sector, for example, thus producing even more carbon emissions, is not the answer. Encouraging greater uptake of electric transport will further enhance the country's attempts to become carbon neutral. This ranges from growing the number of electric cars and vans on our roads to electrifying our public transport network. Investment in capital projects such as Metrolink, DART Plus will provide us with clean alternatives to existing transport options. I believe we can achieve all of these things and many more. I do not say that it will be easy, nor that it will be a smooth transition, but it can be done. To achieve this, we need every home, every business, every government department and every company to work together to realise the change that we must see. By doing so, as we have done so often in our past, we can make an outsized impact on the wider world. We can show the way for countries around the world and ensure that when the spotlight of history is shone upon us, we will not be found wanting. As the nature of climate change, it reaches into every policy area. Housing is no exception to this. We have an ambitious plan to build hundreds of thousands of homes in Ireland. We must have joined up thinking when it comes to government policies. Concrete, for instance, is a major contributor to emissions with the construction industry and must consider environmental ways to meet our climate action responsibilities and the need for significantly increased housing supply. Our role in the UN and the United Nations affords us a unique position at a time when we will be seen as the most crucial time to fight in the fight against climate change. It is incumbent upon us not to let this moment pass. A ramping up of our engagement with our allies in international organisations will allow us to drive home the values that we have stood for and will continue to fight for. The government must lead by example, ensuring that as a government we meet our own targets. I believe the great majority of the Irish people want to see a profound change as to how we deal with this problem and deliver real success on climate action. Increasingly, young people are anxious about what kind of future they will have and the implications they will have on their lives. This touches almost every aspect of the lives that they live, from where they choose to live, the kind of work they do, and even whether or not they will have children. Key to the success of the Climate Action Act will be the deliverable and clear climate action plan, and I eagerly look forward to its publication in the near future. This plan will build upon the valuable work done in 2019 when Fine Gael published its first climate action plan. I will yield to my... Okay, thank you. I believe that we all recognise the severity of our crisis, a crisis that is not of one nation but of all nations. In such a scenario, it can be overwhelming. Individuals may not know where to start, and indeed some governments in the world face similar quandaries, and indeed some sectors in Irish society. Despite the complexity of this crisis, though, bold action, progressive policies and vocal engagement in international settings, such as the UN, we can provide a more hopeful future and provide for real change. Thank you. Laskin Corley.